Welcome, welcome. My name is Tanya, and this is my channel, The School of Self-Alchemy, where we delve into all manner of things, including the tarot and oracle, in order to understand how to get back home to self. Happy 2022. I'm at the time of recording, it is 9 to 5 here in the UK in London, and we are approaching 2022 in approximately 7 hours. And some of you've already entered the new year, and whenever you watch this, it probably already will be 2022. So happy new year. I wish you guys all the choicest of blessings. I'm here today to actually give you a breakdown of some of the messages I've been receiving about 2022. If you follow me on Instagram, I just started posting on Instagram about a month ago after a very long hiatus. I posted yesterday the information about the year ahead, if you prefer it in written form, where I break down the energies I'm going to be doing in this video also, but in this video I'm going to go more in depth than I was able to with the limited space on Instagram, although I wrote like a freaking pamphlet, so check it out. But I am actually going to explore the energies of 2022 through the tarot, because I'm a tarot head and I love how the tarot can actually show us, in my opinion, just as efficiently as astrology, how these energies work. So 2022 it's going to be awesome, right? First and foremost, but it is a number 6 year, right? So how did I get that, for those of you who are not familiar with numerology? So we take the 2022 and we break it down. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6, right? So as far as 6 energy is concerned in the tarot, for me, I look at the Major Arcana first and foremost. And that, of course, is the energy of the lovers. But the 6 energy is also tied to the energy of the devil, which is the number 15 Major Arcana card of the tarot. And of course, that is the number 6 because it's the 1 and the 5, which breaks down to a 6, right? So the devil is also technically the inverse energy of the lovers, which we will get into a little bit more and what that means for us in 2022 as I am, understanding it. On top of that, we have all of this energy underpinned by 3 2s, right? So if you connect that to the energy of the tarot again, in the Major Arcana, that's the High Priestess. We've got 3. So my guides were showing me it's kind of like Holy Trinity energy. We know there's power in 3s, right? If you are familiar with what we like to call angel numbers, when you see a 2-2 or a 2-2-2, it is speaking about positive changes most of the time that are coming into your partnerships, or to pay attention to where you need to make room for positive changes to come towards you in terms of partnership. We also know 22 is a master number. What else? If you break down the last 2 numbers of 2022, as we do when we write down the date, we have the 2 2s that add up to a 4. So we've got the Emperor in that energy a tiny bit too. And this is important, which I'll explain to you why afterwards. And if we just want to look at the lone 0 point in the center, 2022, if we're looking at all the numbers, we also have Fool energy, which is important because it's that Aquarian, Uranian energy, that breaking free, that energy of liberation from restriction. And it also speaks of returning to this place of the 0 point. Okay? So I have in front of me, I'm going to spill my coffee. I have in front of me the cards I want to take a dive into with you today. So you might want to grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of herbal tea or whatever it is that, whatever libation you like to indulge in, because we might be here for a minute. We're going to begin, guys, with the lovers, okay? So the lovers, like I said, number 6 year. The lovers. We are using the Afro Goddess Tarot Arcanas by Andrea Furtick because it's one of my favorite decks and because it represents melanated people. So anyway, here is the lovers, okay, in her deck. I love, love, love this depiction of the lovers, right? So in the background, you see this beautiful woman sitting on a cloud right in front of the sun, overlooking these two people who are completely, they're oblivious of her presence, physically, because their eyes are closed, but they're totally aware that she is with them. And the woman in the background is a representation of the Divine Mother, the female aspect of God that we have done, that culture has done, history has done, the patriarchy, imperialism, however you want to blame it. Either way, the female aspect of God has been silenced, repressed, denigrated, pushed to the side, pretended she doesn't exist. And it's actually 2022. All of this has been a lead up also to this energy of the divine feminine rising, the resurrection of the divine feminine energy. And as she does that, she resurrects the divine masculine energy, because up until this point, we have been living predominantly in toxic masculine and toxic feminine energies. And I'm not talking about genders. I'm talking about energies that we all inhabit, whether we're male, female, or we identify ourselves as, other. It doesn't matter. We all have these energies. So the lovers, what is this speaking about? Lovers is about the return to the garden, right? So if you know anything about Christian literature, you know about the story of Adam and Eve. You know about how they were, pushed out of the garden because, Eve gave Adam the fruit and he ate it, and they were, pushed out of paradise forever. They wouldn't return again. And then the story goes later on that the only way to get back into the garden is by coming into union with Christ, right? That's the Christian version. I don't think I'm going to go too much into that right this second, but the point of the matter is that there's this idea of a garden, a paradise that existed before we fell, right? This story has been twisted in order to control us. So if you go on to read in the Bible, you hear that the Garden of Eden is still in existence physically, but we can't access it because it's been made to be invisible, which should make us wonder, well, how is it invisible? And in my mind, what I like to think is that it's not invisible, it's just in a different dimensional understanding. It's here, but we can't access it, right, physically, because it's like how dogs can hear certain sounds that we can't. There are sounds and waves and energies are going on around us all the time that aren't visible or we can't hear, but they are sound, they are light. So that's kind of how I like to see it, in terms of how they're explaining it biblically. But in another way, the Garden of Eden is really about returning home to our divine truth. It's remembering who the fuck we are. It's coming into communion with God by coming into communion with God within ourselves, right? That's what inner union is. So the year of the lovers, this is really what it's about. It's about people returning to their divine truth. And it's going to manifest itself in so many different ways. Because if you are familiar with tarot, then you also know that the Lover's card is that card of divine partnerships, of deep spiritual relationships, that, divine counterpart situations, what some people would refer to as twin flames. Y'all know I don't like that name. Haven't for a while, but we'll call it that because we know that's the label for it, right? So what does that mean? And then we have the 222, which again is that energy of the partnerships. So 2020, 2021 have been 2 years that are leading up to 2022, again, that number 2, right? Have been 2 years that have really challenged us in the realm of our relationships. So in 2021, we were really forced to begin to look at our ancestral baggage, right? That's what all of that energy in Cancer around eclipse season was really supposed to help us to highlight, looking at the ancestral baggage, right? This year it's become a lot more intimate because we can look at ancestry and we can keep it a bit at an arm's length, right? We can say generations ago these people did this, and yeah, we're cleaning up their mess and yada yada yada, but we can still kind of keep that energy at an arm's length, right? Not in 2021. 2021 came to challenge us in a very personal way of how we show up in our relationships and how other people show up for us. It was the year of undoing a lot of institutionalized ways of viewing ourselves in the world and other people, and the ways we try to control one another because of this conditioning, right? 2021 was about waking us up to where we have betrayed self in order to feel like we belong to something bigger. 2021 was designed to push us to the edge in doing shadow work, to recognize that our relationships at any given point are a reflection on how we treat ourselves. And as we chose to rise, if we were wise, into connecting with our divine truth and power, then many of those relationship dynamics either had to rise with us or we had to let them go. And the point of that was to prepare us for what 2022 is ushering in and what it is the beginning of. Because the age of Aquarius is about so many things, including this idea of new earth and including this idea of authenticity and unconditional love. But if we do not have the conditions to foster that correctly, then we cannot usher that in. And in all frankness, if we had the correct conditions to begin with to hold these energies of authenticity and unconditional love and acceptance of people where they are and all of these other things that the age of Aquarius is supposed to mean, if we had those, the ability to hold that, we'd already be there. But clearly we don't. So of course there's that shifting that has to occur, that recognition that has to occur, that in order to go to this new place, we've got to leave behind the old. And 2022 is about all of those of you who've done the work of the deep work of healing, beginning to return home to self, return home to that new earth, which actually must first be seated within self. Because if you understand anything about manifestation, the world we live in is a reflection of our relationship with self. So the relationships we have are a reflection of how we relate to self. The world we create is a reflection of how we relate to self, which is why, again, the world has been in such a state of turmoil, because we've all been so deeply disconnected from self, we don't understand that we actually all are one. That we can't enact these kinds of acts of violence against the very earth that sustains us without actually doing it to self too, right? So this is the point of why we've been going through this immense and intense shadow work and shift in our relationships and shifts in understanding, truly valuing ourselves in order to also have relationships where we are valued, right? So 2022, if you've done that work, if you've done the deep digging, if you fought with your ego, if you've gotten over your fears, if you started to see things transparently, if you started to let go of attachments that you were calling relationships when really they were draining you of your life force and you were probably doing that to the other person too, then welcome to 2022, the year of the lovers, right? The year of the lovers, the year where many people who've been scattered all around the world from the same soul monad group are actually going to begin to be able to come back together, because now we're vibrating at a frequency whereby we can begin to attract one another to each other and begin to build this new idea of family and community, right? Okay, so this is the energy of the lovers, right? The lovers, of course, also, if you are in a divine counterpart situation, 2022 is heralding the beginning of seeing a lot more divine masculine and divine feminines come together into physical union to be able to birth and to seed this earth with this new paradigm of love and relationship. So, and also to begin birthing things within the context of that. So that could literally be birthing the next generation. You know, the new beings that contain all of these light codes that are also here to help the earth ascend. They've already begun to come into the earth. They've already begun to incarnate at this time. But it's going to begin to happen on a deeper level when what we like to call twin flames, or divine masculines and feminines, start to come together and create new life in all forms, not just people, but also projects and ideas, in order to remove us from this this time of separation and discord, and to come back into a place of harmony. Now, of course, not everyone is on this timeline. Not everyone is on this timeline. There are people who are still very much trapped in their fear. There are people who have yet to awaken, you know, and I mean, I have my views on that. You know, there are some people who will say that everyone's going to awaken. I would hope that's the case. I feel like everyone is here to do what it is that they've come to do, and we need the polarity in order to push us deeper into truth. So the person who is caged in their fear is helping to bring in this new energy as much as the person who is fully holding their light. There's no one that is more important in this plan, and everyone came here to fulfill their own individual soul's purpose. Okay? Now, where the lovers is, the devil is never too far behind, right? So in this picture, we have, you know, the two lovers embracing, eyes closed, being vulnerable, being whole, opening themselves up to one another. In this picture, we have this devil energy, and we see these two people whose hands are bound, and then we have these three things hanging on either side of the devil horns, which I believe represent the chakras. And they're bound, their heart chakra is locked to one another and to the world, right? And there is an escape at the end, but they're not really paying attention to it. The devil is also an energy that deals a lot with the mind, right? Hence the reason why they're sitting right on top of this woman who is supposed to be, you know, the devil. She's supposed to be a goat or Baphomet. The devil energy is all of those things that keep us out of the lovers, right? So the devil energy is often the energy of fear and intimidation that comes to try to keep us locked and away from our fullest potential, locked and away from our divine truth. If you're on a divine counterpart journey, you will be very well acquainted with this energy. It's the energy that comes to you or your counterpart that tells you you're not good enough, you'll never have this, you'll never be this, they'll never love you, you're unlovable, you're too messed up. The devil is that energy that plays in our mind again and again, that keeps us out of our truth, and then keeps us in certain behaviors and patterns that actually reap a lot of self-destruction. So the devil is tied to addictions and codependent behaviors, and but the devil is also where this energy wants to come and keep us very much locked in old karmic patterns and karmic relationships. And all of our relationships are technically karmic in nature, in the sense that they're all here to teach us something. But the relationships that we often refer to as being karmic are the ones where we have to learn by way of pain and suffering and struggle. And they often are relationships that hurt us, they beat us down, and the way we rise again is we have to fight our way out of them. Those are the karmic relationships, and they're often relationships where there's a history, especially the more dysfunctional or toxic or abusive they are, the more there is a past life component, a past life history, or a bond that keeps two or more people tied to each other, reliving these scenarios subconsciously, playing them out physically in real time until they begin to see clearly the pattern and the cycle to break out of it. And oftentimes these relationships will keep your chakra system on lockdown, right? So you can't access your divine power. Everything in your life will be out of order. So for those of you who wonder, well, what's the difference between that and a twin flame or divine counterpart? Because they come and they bring me pain. They come and they bring you pain that actually pushes you deeper into your divine truth, and they activate you to wake the fuck up, to stop hurting yourself. A karmic relationship will want to keep you in that pain and blinded to who you are. A twin flame will come and reflect back to you all the pain you're actually inflicting upon yourself so that you can rise. It activates you into your strength and into your truth, right? So these energies are warring, our divine destiny and our purpose versus our karmic cycles and our karmic patterns, right? So there's no time that comes without challenge. So throughout 2022, we're still going to be dealing a lot with these karmic energies. And some of them are things that, situations, people that we have just grown familiar and comfortable with. And we are being shown the patterns and the cycles, but we might not be fully believing it. We might not be fully trusting it. We might be paying attention too much to what people are saying with their words, as opposed to the cycles we see that have played out in our lives because of our connection to them. And we might also be ignoring how ultimately they make us feel. Because karmic relationships are often relationships that want to put you in a box. They're not comfortable with your power. They're not comfortable with you rising into your truth. So at every turn, they will try, and it's not always conscious in their mind. They're not trying to, but because of the nature of the energy and the energetic agreement between you, they will constantly try to, sometimes consciously, oftentimes subconsciously, keep you in a box that they feel comfortable with. So they don't want you to grow past a certain point, because then you become a threat, right? True soul-based, healthy, divine relationships want to see you soar, want to see you expand, welcome your expansive energy, welcome you in your power. They're not afraid of it, because there's an exchange that occurs where the more you're in your power, the more you're enabling them to be in their power, and actually everyone's just becoming more centered and grounded in the truth of who they are, as opposed to the parasitic energies of karmic attachments, whereby really people are attaching to one another's solar plexuses, if you want to look at it from an etheric standpoint, and draining one another. Oftentimes in karmic relationships, if you want to understand the nature of a relationship, how do you feel? How do you feel in their presence, and how do you feel after? And oftentimes after these interactions, you might have a headache, a raging headache. You might feel really tired, really drained. You might literally sit down after and feel the energy of your solar plexus leaving. Pay attention to how you feel. This is where the High Priestess is coming in to help us again this year with her 222 energy. High Priestess, that Pisces energy, right? We're leaving the age of Pisces and we're going into the age of Aquarius, but not only that, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, the most mature sign of the zodiac. And more importantly, Pisces is the most emotionally mature of the zodiac, and definitely of the water signs, right? It's a mutable sign. So Pisces is able to hold more polarity with a sense of diplomacy than maybe, the cardinal sign of Cancer, or the fixed sign of Scorpio, right? The High Priestess energy is here to help us connect with the dark feminine, right? And when I say the dark feminine, I'm not talking about like lower resonating energy, which is what a lot of the time we like to say darkness is, which is not true. Everything is born of darkness. The High Priestess energy, as she has been speaking to me and as it pertains to 2022, she's very much alive and at work in us right now and through us as individuals and as collectively, especially throughout this energy as we close out 2021 and move into 2022 of the Venus retrograde. And that is that the High Priestess energy is often, the dark feminine energy, the dark mother energy is often deified in characters like Kali, or in the Egyptian canon, Sekhmet, or Hecate, or the Morrigan, or Lilith, right? But the important thing to understand about the dark feminine energy is that she's only scary to us if we're still afraid of our own darkness. Otherwise, she's just highly protective. She's like a mama bear. She doesn't take mess. She doesn't allow us to take mess from ourselves, and she doesn't allow us to take mess from others. So the dark feminine energy comes to slay those things and those energies that have us bound to situations, habits, behaviors that are still keeping us locked out of the truth of who we are, locked out of our divinity, locked in this devil energy. She comes to go to war on our behalves, right? And so this is really what I'm getting with this High Priestess energy for 2022, is that it's really also about the resurrection of that dark feminine energy that's been so demonized and has been so repressed, when the reality is that everything must be born from darkness. The dark feminine energy is blood. The dark feminine energy is the earth. She's life. Without her, nothing can come through by way of the Empress energy, which is that birthing energy. The dark feminine energy is that energy of destruction. We must make room for that which we haven't been able to have room for before. And how are we able to do that? We must have the energy of destruction, but it's a sacred destruction. It's a sacred rage. It's, sorry, my kids will get that. It's the anger, my apologies. It's the anger that we have every right to feel. We've been told, especially as women, especially as Black women, but as a society on a whole, we've been told that it's bad to be angry. But there are things that we should rightfully and justly be angry about. If you are a mother and someone is hurting your child, are you not going to be angry? And is that anger not going to turn into rage? And would that anger and rage not be just? Would it not be justified? Now, I'm not saying you go and you act on it in a crazy way, but that rage and that anger shows us where we are being, where our boundaries have been crossed, where our humanity is being abused. And this is exactly why the dark feminine energy, it's so important in birthing this lover's energy that we have, because this woman sitting in the background who's looking over them, she is the integrated feminine, as I like to see her. In other words, she carries both her dark and her light. She knows how to wield the energies of destruction in order to bring forth life. And this is exactly what the dark feminine is doing, and this is what the High Priestess is enabling for us to do. The High Priestess is here to help us break free out of our own destructive patterns, individually, relationally, collectively, globally, right? And because of her absence, because of her denigration, it's the reason why the world has been so out of balance to begin with. Not for nothing, the High Priestess energy, like I said about Pisces, she comes to help us connect deeply with our emotions, with our intuition, with our lost secret knowledge, with all of the energy that is trapped within our subconscious that has traveled with us from lifetimes before, that because we have become a people who are so fixed on physicality, we have disconnected from that. So the High Priestess energy is that energy that your whole life has been showing you who people are, but because you've been programmed to say, oh, but this person said this, and they're doing this, and all of this. So when the alarm bells go off in you, and years, weeks, months down the line, whatever it was, that initial instinctive feeling you were getting viscerally or even physically, in that situation with that person that was actually showing you something, it comes into fruition later on in a bigger form, because all of that time you were ignoring it. And I want to help you to understand what I mean by that, because like I said, we come into this lifetime to learn. We come into this lifetime to grow, and all of us are on different paths. Some of us are here and we're literally ascended masters. We're here to just help. Other people are here, it's like they're pretty new souls. There are some people who are here to learn specific, very specific lessons. You get what I'm saying? So we're all on a different track individually. Right? But we're all collectively here to grow, and we chose this, right? So we come into this earth with contracts that are designed to help to push us into wherever area we need to rise. And so there are souls that have been contracted, you've been contracted to, where there is that karmic energy, whereby they have signed up to be an instrument of pain for your growth. But the reality is, you were not sent here to suffer. You were not sent here to stay in pain. But the point of the pain is to wake you up to your truth, is to wake you up out of this. We cannot know who we are, what it is that we need to overcome, if we don't first, because of the nature of Earth and its energies, if we don't first experience the polar opposite, right? But these relationships aren't supposed to last forever, because like I said, you did not come just to experience pain. You also came here to rise above all of that. You came to rise into your divinity. You came to experience joy and bliss on this plane, not when you die and go to heaven, on this plane, in this here lifetime. Right? But most of the time we're not aware of that. And we're not aware of that because of how we're taught to relate to one another. We're taught that blood is thicker than water, that it's so important to be loyal and to hold on to and have long-term relationships. And that's not necessarily true, because there's many of us, and I think a lot of us are learning this now, we've been holding on to mediocre relationships because that's the right thing to do. And the whole time, we are limiting ourselves and the other person from growing into their fullest potential because we don't want to do the wrong thing, right? But I say all of this about the High Priestess because within your cellular memory, you hold the memories of every consciousness, every representation of your consciousness in every lifetime. And you hold the memories of the interactions you've had with other people who you are interfacing with in this lifetime, who have had alternative physical representations, but the same consciousness, if that makes sense. In other words, you are interfacing with people who you have interfaced with lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And sometimes that's a wonderful thing, and sometimes it's not so great. So when you are being charmed by a person who's being really nice, but you feel this thing in your gut, that's that cellular knowledge trying to speak to you and tell you, you probably, there's nothing wrong with this person, but you have a history with them. And they retain that memory of that history too. This is why there's no point in ever being like a person is good or bad. They're just either good for you or bad for you, right? When we're looking at it on a more basic level, not like abusive situations, but, especially where there are scenarios where there are people who can be really great, really nice to you, but there's just something. Trust that something. Trust that something, because that something is there. That's that High Priestess in you. That's that dark feminine energy in you that is here to push you out of all the energies from this lifetime and lifetimes before that have repressed you and want to keep you in cycles and timelines of pain. trust the High Priestess energy. She's coming this year, 2022. She's underpinning this energy because she will not be silenced anymore. She will not be silenced in the earth, and she will not be silenced in our lives. Yes, I did speak a little bit about this Fool energy that's here also. The Fool, as you know, is the first card of the Major Arcana. It's the 0 energy. It's about taking a leap into a brand new beginning, doing it unabashedly. The Fool energy is Aquarian energy. It is tied to more the Uranian side of Aquarian energy, meaning that it's all about taking chances in order to be free and to live your best life. So this, of course, is an energy that is going throughout this time as we transition to the age of Aquarius, especially since we moved into 2000 with all the zeros, right? Then, of course, we have the Emperor, right, which is at 22 at the end. It's a 4. So again, a minor energy, but not so much, because the reason the Emperor is here is because in order for the Emperor to come into place, in order for the divine masculine, which is the Emperor energy, to truly rise, then we cannot get there by bypassing the feminine. We cannot get there by bypassing any aspect of the feminine. But the main energy of the feminine that most of us have wanted to bypass is this dark feminine energy. And she's just like, no, you cannot bypass your way into the divine masculine energy, into the true rising of your truth and your power, into divine union with self and others, while ignoring me. So the divine feminine energy is always a gateway to the divine masculine energy. We see it even in the way that the tarot is organized. We have the High Priestess, who is the number 2 energy. Then we have the Empress, which is the number 3. Then we have the Emperor, right? In terms of the court cards, we have the Queen, and then we have the King. The King is the mastery of an energy, but you can't get to mastery without the feminine energy, right? So this is what this is about also, the High Priestess energy, the dark feminine energy, the connecting with our intuition, the reconnecting with our spiritual knowledge and information and history even, and the knowledge that we contain from lifetimes before is what is assisting all of us to step into our divine masculine power, which is self-mastery. It's also assisting the rise of the divine masculine energy physically as personified through men, right? Okay. So what I want to look at, and I did do this in the post I did on Instagram, I took a look at the 3 major energies: the Lovers, the Devil, and then also the High Priestess. And I kind of looked at the shadow energies, or what it is that we need to be aware of in this year. And I'm going to go into that too. I did that by looking at the matching minor arcana cards. So for the Lovers, this is Gemini energy. So in the minor arcana, the Gemini energy is represented by the 8 of Swords, the 9 of Swords, and the 10 of Swords, right? But then the Lovers is also number 6 energy. So we're going to take a look at the 6 of Wands, which is Leo energy, the 6 of Swords, which is Aquarian energy, the 6 of Cups, which is Scorpio energy, and then the 6 of Pentacles, which is Taurus energy. So it's all fixed sign energy in the number 6s. Okay, so our main issue that will want to work against us embracing this beautiful energy of new earth, of returning to the garden, of inner union, of embracing these energies first in ourselves and then in others in the world. Our main obstacle is the conditioning of our mind and the ways that we trust our mind before we trust our gut, and more importantly, all of the ways we've been conditioned to think about ourselves in the world. Now, this was a huge energy that we were battling with back in Gemini season, which I believe was eclipse season also. And the reason for that was because it's preparing us for this right now. We've done a great deal of battle with these energies, and now it's like we have to overcome the war, right? And that is that we have to, once and for all, if we want to really enter into these energies, we have to abandon those mindsets, those voices, those things that want to tell us in our minds that we're not good enough. We have to abandon the history of things that people have said to us and the things that people have done to us in order to keep us thinking certain things about ourselves, the world, and what our past means for our future in a negative way. We have to release the old stories of betrayal and defeat and sabotage. We must release them in order to step into this. We cannot allow ourselves to go down this path and stay there. And more importantly, we can't allow other people who have been the ones who have really propagated these energies in our lives. We cannot allow them access to our mind space anymore, right? Because what we think, once we attach it to a feeling, we create. And so becoming very disciplined with our mind this year is going to be so important. And what I like to tell you guys all the time is that you are a divine being. You are a divine being. We are all a divine being. We are all reflections of God. We are all pieces of source energy. And as such, we are love. And anything that tries to pull you out of that truth actually isn't you. It's either your conditioning, other people's projections, the projections that you've picked up from this world, but it actually isn't you at the core. And ultimately, returning home to self is understanding that you are love. You are divine. You are God. Any energies that cause you to entertain fear, doubt, guilt, shame, jealousy, envy, they're not of you. They're there to show you something about what it is you need to release to get deeper into communion with self, but you cannot adopt them as being part of your reality. Otherwise, you will stay stuck in this karmic cycle of holding on to pain because you still want to see the pain narrative as being your own, and it's not. And this is where we're really being challenged to completely release that. Okay, so we do have the Six of Wands. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but we have, the Six of Wands, again, is beautiful. It's Leo energy. It's about being unafraid to shine and to be who you are in a very public way. The Six of Wands. Very important because so many of us have been taught to shrink ourselves in order to make other people feel better or in order to fit in, and there's no more of that. There's no more shrinking. In the right situation, scenario, people, setups, you will never have to dim your light. No one would ever tell the sun, you're too bright, go home and hide behind a cloud. Who the fuck is you? We don't have the right to tell the sun that. We don't have the right to tell that to anyone else either. If someone's shine causes us discomfort, then we just need to remove ourselves from them and let them do what it is that they need to do as long as they're not hurting themselves and other people. And that's the truth. So the Six of Wands is all about that, tapping into that truth again of knowing you came here to shine your light and to shine it as brightly as you are able to. And anyone who has an issue with that, an issue with your energy because of that, they're probably not compatible for you at that time. And that's fine too. Okay? We have the Six of Swords. We all know what this is, right? This is all about walking into our power, walking into our truth, leaving behind those energies that desire to keep us small. With that Five of Swords, that was such a prominent energy throughout this year. The Five and Seven of Swords. The Six of Swords is that, no more playing small. No more dimming my light. It's time for me to walk into and take authority over my power and my mind also with that Swords energy. The Six of Cups, of course, we know this. This is all about that energy of feeling home with another. Time to walk towards people and situations that feel good to my soul. That if my soul remembers it, it's a remembrance of home in a beautiful and a good way. Right? With that Six of Cups, it's time to embrace connections where I am truly accepted and celebrated, not just tolerated. That's that Six of Cups energy. It's time for energy with the Six of Pentacles to come into balance. Remember, I was telling you, karmic situations is that constant pull of one another's energies. It's a parasitic thing that the deeper you get in this journey, the more you begin to feel it in your body, right? And so as such, it's never equal because there's no equal give and take in a karmic setup or a situation, even if it appears like there is some kind of like I give, because even if it appears like there is, it's often going to be tit for tat, and that's not actually functional. Right? The Six of Pentacles is that coming, it's that the karmic scales coming into balance. Remember, I said to you, when you are energetically aligned with the person who is in their truth and you're in your truth, you actually are just going to cause one another to shine all the more without trying to control or contain one another. There's no, everyone becomes the owner of their own energy. They don't have to steal from other people's energy in order to shine or in order to feel bigger. That's those karmic or toxic connections where everyone's constantly, there's constantly a checks and balances, because in order to stay in those scenarios, you're not truly plugged into your own energy, your own truth, your own solar plexus. There's always a stealing that's happening, whether it's you taking from them or them taking from you in order to maintain that energy, because it's not source energy. It's limited. It's not unlimited. Okay, so that's the Lovers. In terms of the Devil, we'll just look at the Capricorn energy, because the Devil is a number 15, so there's no minor arcana past just this Capricorn energy. So we have the 2, the 3, and the 4 of Pentacles. So again, the 2 of Pentacles is this energy of instability, also connected to the High Priestess, of course, because it's a 2. But it's about not knowing how to make a choice, or wanting to make a choice and to move forward in a more stable way, but not really sure how. And the 2 of Pentacles, you'll often see the person holding on to the pentacles, and there's this, figure 8 around them. And this is speaking about traps and cycles. Like, how do I break out of this cycle? How do I begin to move towards stability? What choice do I have to make in order to do that? So that's an important thing to recognize when breaking out of these devil energies, is recognizing the infinity, recognizing the choices and decisions that we've made that have kept us in certain cycles, whether it's with people or whether it's first and foremost to self, right? The 3 of Pentacles is all about how we collaborate with others in real time. And again, because it's connected to this devil energy, are your collaborations, are they energies that keep you in this situation and scenario? Do they keep you having to withhold yourself and your value in order to feel accepted? In order to be loved, you have to play by the rules of the rules of the game that this person or these people have to set in order to feel less threatened by you. Enough of that. Recognition of how that occurs, recognition of your own choices, recognition of where you feel that way about yourself, recognition of how you've given to situations that promoted that energy, and a recognition of how, because of that, it's caused you to have to withhold your truth and your value. And it's also put you in an energy of lack. It puts us in an energy of lack. Time to bust out of it. That's this energy of the devil, but it's going to come to want to tempt you. The devil comes with collaborations, and it's just like, oh yeah, but I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that. And it's just like, but at what price? At the price of my own value? At the price of my own shine? At the price of my own voice and autonomy? At the price of my own happiness and acceptance in a relationship? At the price of you stealing my energy? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's so 2021. I don't think so. That's so 2020, 2019, 2018. It's not 2022, okay? It's not. It's not. And last but not least, we're going to take a quick look at the High Priestess energies, the energies that support the High Priestess in the Minor Arcana. And that, of course, is going to be the twos. It's going to be the twos. You know what? We could also throw in there, because the High Priestess is Pisces energy, we could also throw in there the 8 and the 9 and the 10 of Cups, which I haven't taken out because I forgot. And I'm not going to go through the whole deck right now while I'm recording to do that. But if you are well versed with tarot, you know what the 8, 9, and 10 of Cups is. The 8 of Cups is that energy of walking away from something that might feel familiar, and you might have some emotional attachment or sensibility, attachment to or sensibility with, but you decide that you deserve better. You go after the cup of self-healing. You go after that Ace of Cups that takes you to that 9 of Cups, where you discover your inner peace, your ability to sustain your own energy from your own wealth of peace that you found within self, right? And then we get the 10 of Cups, where we're able then to be in a community or be in communion with another, where that is also valued, where they have all of their own cups filled and you have all of your cups filled, and you come together, there's just an overflow, you know? That's that 8, 9, and 10 of Cups. So the High Priestess is here to support that this year again. Where still do you need to walk away from situations that take away your peace, that take away your cup of healing, that take away your ability to connect with others who have all of their cups filled also and want to come together with you and share that instead of taking from you or you taking from them, right? The High Priestess. So then we also have the 2 of Wands. The High Priestess is a 2, so that's always the energy of making a choice. Always the energy of making a choice. The 2 of Wands. 2 of Wands also, not for nothing, twin flame energy, okay? But the 2 of Wands is what you have to leave behind in order to move forward and follow your heart. So the High Priestess is here to help you intuit that. Remember I said she's going to help you to connect with your cellular memory of all of the imprints of your soul history that still exists within you from past incarnations, to help you to understand where it is that your soul wants to journey in this lifetime, and therefore what it is you need to leave behind and what it is you need to go towards. And the 2 of Wands is all about that fire, that motivation. It's that spiritual energy. Wands energy for me is also tied up to ancestry, you know, either moving in the call of what it is you've come here to do and having your ancestors support you, but also moving away from ancestral baggage that has tried to keep you out of your calling, right? So that's that 2 of Wands energy. We've got the 2 of Pentacles. We've already talked, oh, sorry, the 2 of Pentacles comes last because we're going in the order of the Tree of Life. So it's Wands, Swords, Cups, and then we have the physical manifestation, which is the Pentacles. Sorry if you guys can hear, the fireworks have already begun. So then we have the 2 of Swords. The 2 of Swords, this is where the High Priestess comes to help you to get over the illusions of your own mind and the stubborn mindsets and belief systems and traditions that you want to hold on to, because logically they're what makes sense, because they're part of your conditioning, they're part of our conditioning, and where we make choices that actually devalue ourselves because we've been conditioned to kind of just tune into the mind and to be very stuck and rigid in that place. Right? Then of course we had the 6 of Cups, and now we have the 2 of Cups, right? And then if we want to look at the Emperor energy, the 4 of Wands is attached to that too. And then we have the Lovers. So we have all of the energies this year within the tarot that are speaking of soul connections, right? Divine unions. So it's beautiful. We have the 2 of Cups. This is about, you know, coming together, 2 people coming together on the same page, feeling the mutual emotionality behind the connection. But it's actually, I feel like the 2 of Cups is a more steady energy than even the Lovers. It's less volatile. It's a connection of hearts. right? And it's the healing of that connection too with the caduceus. It's the ability to communicate that, because the caduceus also is mercurial energy. You know, it's the rising of the kundalini, the ability to tap into one another's, tap into divine truth by way of the relationship. This is what the High Priestess is helping us to intuit. Where are these true soul alignments that we know they exist? We feel that they exist, but because of our own history, right, which is often these karmic situations that we've been attracting to ourselves because we've been living in these energies of not knowing who we are. And those situations, as they've accumulated in our lifetimes, in this lifetime, they've made us less, or in our lifetimes, as they've accumulated, they've made us less willing to believe in this. And the High Priestess is here to help you connect again, like I said, to your emotions, to your subconscious cellular memories, to help you again access the truth of how you can get back to this place in your connections, in your connection with yourself and in your connection with others, right? So that you can make decisions that break yourself out of these loops and can actually enable you to move forward in stability. In reality. That's the Pentacles energy. So that's what I have for you guys. I hope that it was interesting. I hope if you're a tarot head or you are intrigued by how these energies work, that it's helped you to, it's been insightful. I hope that it's helped you to understand some of the energies of the year ahead, and maybe even some of the ways that these energies are going to challenge us all. Most importantly, as I always said, you know, I hope that I've helped to push you deeper into your power, your magic, your truth, and your majesty, because that's what I came here to do, and that's who I came here to be. So, yeah, I love you guys. I'm wishing you, again, all the best in this year and beyond. If you need me for anything, my email address and Instagram are below. Holler at your girl in the comment section if you feel so led to do so. And yes, I just send you so much love and joy and peace and surrender and flow for all the amazing things that are in store for you this year and beyond. Happy, happy New Year. Until next time, be well.